Shout out Scholastic Book Fairs. Mac, if you had the power to anamorph. Now, for those of you who don't know, anamorphing is when kids are given the power to morph into any creature as they wish. What would you anamorph into?
Well, there's a little bit of a misnomer there, and that's not even the right word. But so the Animorph books, you couldn't turn into whatever animal you wanted. Certain kids could turn into certain animals. It wasn't like a one-stop shop. You could be any animal.
I'm talking the canon of the television show.
But if you could pick one animal, what would it be? Is that what you're asking essentially?
What animal do you think you look enough like that you could morph into?
Oh, well, that's not how Animorphs works at all. So when I was a kid, I was obsessed with cheetahs, but quite clearly I don't have much in common with a cheetah these days. Probably be some sort of primate, right? That'd be pretty easy.
Like an orangutan, you think?
I don't know if I've got the orangutan have those weird like bump outs, although maybe wearing headphones it would work. There'd be a nice Animorph cover there. Yeah, shit. I don't know. Maybe a rhinoceros.
I think you could be a rhino.
I think I could be. I'm wearing gray today too.
Yeah,
that's not bad. What do you think you would morph into?
Now, I'm not saying this character in particular, but I think Alf, like an alien from Melmac. I look an awful lot like one, right?
Let me ask a follow-up here, and this might be the better question here at the core of this. What animal could you transform into, dare I say anamorph into, that would be the most useful in your life?
Well, Alf does collect lint, so that's pretty good.
It's got to be like a bird, right? So you can just fly places.
Birds you can fly, but if I turn into a bird, they're going to want to kill me for what I've done to them.
Julie. You'd have to do like a bigger bird too, so that other birds aren't preying on you. So you'd have to go like bald eagle or something massive.
Am I good enough to be a bald eagle, though?
Oh, bald eagle. Just found mine. There
we go.
That's a good
bald eagle.
All right.
And then, I don't know. What's a bird that has hair, like feathers?
You could be like an emu.
Emus don't have hair, do they?
I don't know. They might be flightless though, too.
Yeah, give me like an exotic parrot or something like that. And I'm not talking about Polly. I don't want to be Polly, but give me one that has nice feathers, nice plumage in the front.
That's what we call it. Plumage. Plume factor.
One, goo, three, goo. Jaws 3. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Goo. Entertainment.
Yeah, I'm Ghoul.
Oh, and I'm just regular old Mac.
No, you're Macabre, baby. You're back.
God, true that. I missed that one.
That's right, because we are here for a spooky episode. I know that we used to do month-long spooky adventures.
Spooktacular.
And we have pulled back on that a bit because we ran out of things to talk about.
Well, when you're fucking 7 years into a podcast, that's what happens. You know, you run out of bits to do in October.
But we are going back to an old bit, but not quite like how we used to. This is a Mac v. Goo.
Ooh. Oh, that's the sound of the crowd.
Yeah, they're going nuts out there.
There's like 6 of our listeners that love these episodes. And then, I don't know, whatever the rest is that do not like them.
I actually did get a couple people that when I was like, hey, we don't know what to talk about anymore, send us ideas like, well, you guys never finished Mac v. Goo.
Yeah, it's true.
Kind of a reason for that.
Very true. Very true. Listen, we actually enjoy doing them. I just don't know if people enjoy listening to us do the Mac v. Goos.
And I also question, do people like the draft portion or do they like the movie pitch? Do they not like one? Do they hate the other?
We may have to reboot the Goovy Vault here. We're running out of stuff. we'll get a David Gordon Green reboot on the fucking Goovy Vaults.
So Mac, how are we doing our V today? How are we Ving each other?
So essentially, and if you've been a fan of the program for 7 years now, you'll remember, or 8? Are we 8 years old or 7 years old?
8.
You'll remember back in the A&D days, a little segment called DTF with DFS.
Yeah.
Where Goo and I would build a DraftKings lineup, or give some players to build your DraftKings lineup around. And DFS, daily fantasy sports, which was all the rage then and still is quite a bit now. I prefer it over year-long fantasy sports.
Same.
We're giving horror movies that treatment today. Goo did a lot of work here, a lot of legwork here.
Too much.
We've got we're gonna have 2 different movie lineups you can build here. We're doing an 80s horror movies and 90s horror movies, and within those decades, we have directors, lead actor and actresses, supporting actor and actresses, and then your main villain killer sort of character. So that's 6 things in total you'll have to select, and you have a total budget of $3,500 here, both in the 80s and the 90s, not combined, but separately. We're doing them separate, back to back here, and we'll see what kind of lineups we can build here, Goo.
So first off the top of, leading off this podcast, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, Goo.
Also, when building these lineups, you need to keep those actors, those directors, those killers within the decade. It doesn't matter what happened before. It doesn't matter what happened after. It's just those 10 years.
Yeah. So they'll be just like when you're playing DraftKings or FanDuel, you scroll over to quarterback. You can pick from a certain amount of quarterbacks here. When we scroll over to directors, there'll be a smattering of directors we can choose from. And we've got the values listed here when we'll read through them. You can't go off the board here. If it's off the board, they're on a bye week.
That is correct. And also, Mac, just quick congratulations to you for winning DFS yesterday.
Oh, that's 2 this year, Goo. Out of 7 weeks, I've got 2 wins in our DraftKings league, which is about 50 to 60 players a week in that league. And I've won it twice now this year. So that's a good start to the year.
Credit to me for getting worse every week.
Yesterday was the second time I've also placed in the top 600 of the Millie Maker, but they changed the payouts there. You don't really get a good chunk of change unless you get to the top 75. So it's a real bummer.
So the last thing before we start to list off these people is we can have the same characters, the same actors, the same directors in our lineups. It's just the differences between the others that might make the difference for you. Also, follow along at home. Send us your DFS lineups for 80s horror and then 90s horror. And also do the math. We don't want you to mess up the math.
Yeah, do the math for us. I don't really want to check it, but I probably will if you tweet at us. So without further ado,
popular genres from the 80s. These are free, just to keep in mind for yourself. Alien, slasher, ghost, body horror.
Yeah, the 80s sort of both bastardized and popularized horror movies. Because
bastardized more than anything else.
Yeah, coming out of the 70s, there were some really great horror movies, but we weren't inundated with them. The 80s flipped the script there, and all you had was sequels and really poorly written horror movies for the most part. But the 80s, that was a very 80s thing to do. And then when you got to the 90s, they sexualized everything. And you saw that in horror movies as well.
So let's go ahead and start with directors. The number 1, the most expensive director on the board at $1,000 is John Carpenter. In the decade, he gave us The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, and Christine, to name a few.
Yeah, I mean, it makes so much sense that he would be the most expensive director on the board here. And the other weird thing, especially looking at these 80s and 90s things here, Goo, oddly, the more popular horror directors were present in the 80s more so than the 90s, because I think there was also a bit of fatigue in the early 90s coming out of the 80s.
$900, David Cronenberg, Scanners, Videodrome, and The Fly.
That's more up Goo's alley than mine. More of a crass director.
It is. It's very. I love the practical effects.
Yeah. The looks matter there.
Also, not only, but $900. If this was just for genres in general, this man might be at the top of everyone's list, but he only gave us 1 horror movie in the decade, and that is Stanley Kubrick for The Shining.
Yeah, honestly, probably my favorite value here, even though he's only $100 cheaper than John Carpenter. You can go the more ghostly route if you go Kubrick, which I don't think you can do with Carpenter.
Let me ask you this question, though. Am I in the wrong for putting Carpenter at a $100 higher?
No, the volume and the quality were both there in the 80s. And like Kubrick, is probably as much sci-fi as he
Mhm.
is horror. But obviously, The Shining is one of the scariest movies ever made. It's a terrifying ghost story.
At $800, Wes Craven, Deadly Blessing, Swamp Thing, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Now, and especially these next two, if you want to work a little comedy or a little
Yes.
meta type
Mhm.
stuff into your movies, Wes Craven might be your best bet, along with Sam Raimi coming up
Yes.
here, Goo.
So Sam Raimi, you just mentioned him, $600. Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, I like both of those movies. I like Army
Mhm.
of Darkness. I no longer like Sam Raimi because of some things he's done in the last 15 years. So that's really like I will 1,000% not be using Sam Raimi here.
The next one up here might be a huge value pick, and
Mm.
you might even put him above Raimi, and that is Toby Hooper, Poltergeist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, you know that you just mentioned the comedy of what Craven and what Raimi can do, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is pretty much a spoof of the first one.
Yeah, Toby Hooper here, you get a little combo of like your slasher, you get a
Yeah.
little bit of the comedy aspect, and you also get a bit of the crassness that I referred to with Cronenberg. So it's
Yeah.
actually a pretty good value at 600.
And then finally, no, not finally, but at 400 is Sean Cunningham. You would know him from Friday the 13th.
I honestly did not know that that was the director of Friday the
Mhm.
13th, but flowers to him.
$400, by the way. Don't know if I mentioned that. And then also for $0, Alan Smithy.
Now, if you don't know who or what Alan Smithy is, it is pseudonym?
Yep.
Is
The
that
official
the word you would
pseudonym
use?
used
Okay.
by directors who wish to disown their projects.
Yep. So if a director makes a movie and realize it's real shitty, they're gonna throw Alan Smithy as the director on that title.
Yep.
However, um, I don't think there are some movies that were initially received poorly and turned into cult classics. So it's not necessarily the worst thing to take an Alan Smithy.
Shall we take our directors right now?
Yeah, why not? We'll give our selections as we finish the groups here. Who you got, Goo?
It's Stanley Kubrick.
Ah, yeah, I'm going Kubrick too. Yeah.
So should I be going Kubrick or Kubrick, by the way?
I pronounce Kubrick. I like Kubrick
I like
better.
to think of Kubert.
Like to me, he's every bit as good quality-wise as Carpenter,
Mhm.
and I feel like and this maybe is more 80s than it is 90s, and that's why I mean Kubrick's here anyways. Going more supernatural and ghost story type with your horror movie
Yeah.
just works better with Kubrick.
Also, the fact that he tortured Shelley Duvall.
I hate her so much.
Well, I'm not saying for that, but I'm saying more for the fact of like, what can he get out of some other actors or actresses that maybe
Real
not as
actors and
well? No, but
actresses.
no, I'm saying not as seasoned as her either.
Oh, true. True.
Let's move on to lead actresses here. And at number one, $1,000, the Scream Queen herself, and that is Jamie Lee Curtis. We have The Fog, Prom Night, Terror Train, Halloween 2. And you could say, well, maybe she shouldn't be this high because we're not including Halloween, but she's still got a great resume.
Yeah, if you went to go make a horror movie in 1980 or 1985, she would have cost you the most as well. So this may in like in real life. So this makes sense for her to be the top dog here.
At $800, Heather Langenkamp, and that is from Nightmare on Elm Street and Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors.
The Langenkamp, I think lesser than Jamie Lee Curtis, but gives
Mhm.
you many of the same factors. Also more attractive than Jamie Lee Curtis.
Ooh. $700, we have Shelley Duvall. She is from The Shining and Popeye.
So she does one thing really well, and that's look scared. So
Yeah.
if you want someone to look like that, what's that? I forget who the painter is that made that painting, The Scream. That's what
Well, I'll
Shelley
say,
Duvall looks
imagine
like.
if you had her and then you had Ghostface.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
painting that Ghostface is based off of
Yeah.
is basically Shelley Duvall.
At $500, we have Danielle Harris, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Yeah, if you want to go more of a little kid route, which we have found actually pretty often in 80s horror movies,
Yeah.
this is a good play here.
I would also say Halloween 4, I think outside of Michael Myers, who I don't even really care for in either of those two movies, I think Halloween 4 is actually really good.
It is, I'm not gonna say surprisingly good, but it is better than all of the surrounding movies around it. Like,
Real
it's better than 3,
spooky
it's better than 5.
ambiance. Then we go to 400, Barbara Crampton from Beyond, Reanimator, and You're Next.
Cool, I gotta be honest with you, no idea who this woman is.
I Googled Scream Queens from the 80s, got her.
Okay. All right. Well, if you're looking for a cheaper option, there you go, right there.
Well, speaking of cheap options, for $0, Elvira.
You get Elvira, but you also get Elvira's breast implants. So you got to weigh the pros and cons of those.
Let me ask you, Mac, who are you taking from this bunch to fill your lineup?
So I really, really want to go Jamie Lee Curtis, but I feel like you priced these 80s prices real well. So I'm gonna pass on her and go for Langenkamp at 800 because I'll get a lot of the same.
I will say that I think the two most important things of an 80s horror or even 90s horror, really any, well, more specific to those ones, is the director and the lead actress.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
because it's a lot of faceless male leads in 80s horror movies.
So I've already paid up to get my director. I paid $900 on Kubrick. So I'm going to go with Danielle Harris here, who, once again, I really like in Halloween 4. And like I said, Kubrick tortures his people. He's going to torture Danielle Harris into giving us something really either spooky or you feel bad about.
So you could essentially, at the moment, build The Shining, but substitute Danielle Harris for that kid that played Danny.
You don't know what I'm doing. Let's go on to the lead actor. And like you said, a little bit different of a crop here. You do have a bunch of people that just did one-offs, and they're great in those one-offs. And like for 800, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell is a very interesting case here because The Thing is so good and he's so good in it. However, you would never think Kurt Russell when you think horror movies. But I think it's almost untapped potential here because I think he could give you maybe not as terrifying, but he could do a Jack Nicholson type Shining role. I think that he's capable of that. And he could also be your hero in the movie.
So he could just
go either way.
Grounded good guy.
Yeah, he could go either way for sure.
Speaking of not being grounded, for $700, we have Donald Pleasance. Monster Club, Halloween 2, Alone in the Dark, Phenomena, Prince of Darkness, Halloween's 4 and 5. And it's really Halloween's, I would say Halloween 5 is really the one where he is just unkempt.
If you want someone to chew the scenery, get a little ridiculous, and explain things for the sake of the plot, Donald Pleasance is your man.
Amazing in Halloween 1, a little bit less in Halloween 2, and then he is just, they're like, we need one returning so here, come on over, bud.
You've also fundamentally altered my brain because his name is Donald Pleasance, but I say Pleasance every time. Every single time now, without fail.
Michael! $700 as well. Bruce Campbell, Evil Dead's 1 and 2, and he's got charisma out the ass.
You're building a very specific movie if you take Bruce Campbell, but he does it really, really well.
Also $700, and this is one that I amended several times because at first I'm like, is he a supporting? Is he? But he's in a bunch of horror movies, and he is the lead of a couple of them, and he's quite good in them as well. And that is Corey Feldman, Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, A New Beginning. He's also in Gremlins and The Burbs. Not much of a horror movie, but, you know, horror adjacent, if you will.
Yeah, Goonies is a little freaky too. Like Feldman is more than qualified to be your lead actor in a horror movie. It's not my type of horror movie that I would build, but he's certainly valued pretty well here at 700.
At $600, we have Jeff Goldblum from The Fly.
Now, thank God they're in the same category because if you built a movie around Goldblum and Pleasance, I don't know who's going to chew more scenery.
At 500, speaking of having a grounded lead actor, and that is Craig T. Nelson from
Coach.
Yeah.
The Coach for 500. Tell you what, I will not be drafted Craig T. Nelson.
And then finally, for $100, the guy from Halloween 3.
Now, which guy are you talking about here?
The main guy who fucks everybody.
Okay. The guy. The
Yeah,
guy
the
from
guy.
Halloween 3. I don't mind that. I would rather the guy from Halloween 3 than Craig T. Nelson. Good
Craig T.
value here.
Nelson. Who are you looking at here, Mac?
Goo, I'm going to take Kurt Russell because I think having the ability to go either way, maybe possibly playing like a rough, scruff, scary guy, or like your golden boy hero, I think there's good value there. Even though he's the most expensive, I'm taking Kurt Russell at 800.
I am also taking Kurt Russell. I think that he could also be a great father figure to Danielle Harris as she is dealing with, spooky behavior around her. And he's like, yeah, I don't think you are fully grasping what's happening. And then he learns what's happening. And then he's even more scared than she is.
Yeah, I think Kurt Russell, and that's why he was the most or the highly valued. He's a real chameleon, Goo.
Yes.
Fit a number of roles.
At $700 for supporting actress, we have Heather O'Rourke from Poltergeist 1, 2, and 3. And you could argue she might be the lead of 3. She's used a little bit more in 2. She's obviously the commercial appeal of the movie because she's in all the ads, but let's say supporting. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that
the little girl,
works.
by the way.
Even if you wanted to call her the lead in Poltergeist, like she doesn't have the marketability of a lead. She's more of a support, and also like Poltergeist, the
house is
lead.
the star.
Yeah. She's a supporting actress.
Actually, I would even say that the behind the scenes shenanigans is the star of the movie now, right?
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting though because you already have Danielle Harris, so I don't think you're going to take Heather O'Rourke, but that would be interesting to see what you would do with those two.
For $500, Patricia Arquette's Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4.
Patty A, really good actress. Really good actress. I don't know if I could fit her into my horror movie, but maybe the best actress amongst these ladies here.
Next up, we have three $400 value picks here who are pretty much all in one horror movie apiece. They all made their, pretty much big screen debuts doing this, or like, movie, whatever you want to say here. But Demi Moore, Parasite, The Seventh Sign, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Troll, and Jennifer Connelly, Phenomena.
And I think 3 sort of distinct characters you would get out of them. Demi Moore is going to be a little more, less of a damsel in distress, more of a fighting back. She's a supporting but borderline main actress. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, you're obviously going to play into the more comedic aspect of her. Jennifer Connelly is more damsel in distress, love interest, scream queen type here of the 3. So I like her from those 3.
At $300, Lar Park Lincoln from Friday the 13th, 7? Yeah, The New Blood.
That 5. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's 7. I don't know who this woman is. I don't know this one.
I did a Google. So.
Lar Park is a name I have never heard before.
Sounds like Lar Darn. And then finally for $0, Zelda Rubinstein from the Poltergeist movies.
Is that the psychic lady?
There's a spirit in this house. She also looks like she could be my aunt.
Great value at $0.
You saw my father's side of the family, you would know. She could be my aunt. Mac, who are you taking out of these supporting actresses?
So to build off the cast I already have, which is Langenkamp, the more she's an attractive woman, but she's more the fight back type of character. So I don't really need that. Kurt Russell is going to fill a number of roles. I'm going to go Jennifer Connelly here because she's a little younger looking than the other two at $400. $400 is a sweet spot here, I think. And I just think it's going to work better for my movie.
I'm going to go young once again. I am going with Heather O'Rourke.
Whoa.
I have my 2 main lead female characters, Danielle Harris, Heather O'Rourke. You have the stern, older character of Kurt Russell. And then a lot like The Shining, where, Kubrick, really leaned into the female actresses, like pushing them.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what would happen.
He's going to get arrested for child abuse after making this movie.
It's a possibility. Just let Kurt Russell do whatever he wants because he knew Walt Disney. Supporting actors here, Mac. I had a bit of a difficult time finding some.
It's quite all right. quite
So
all
we
right
have
here.
3 here, 2 at the same price. Kevin Bacon and Johnny Depp, both at $400. Bacon, of course, Friday the 13th. Depp with A Nightmare on Elm Street. And then we have for $300, Tom Hanks, who was in a little movie called He Knows You're Alone. Apparently, he sucks in this movie. And then also we have The Burbs, horror adjacent.
Yeah, I have a hard time fitting Tom Hanks into a horror movie in my brain, so I don't think I can do it. So I'm going to rule him out. And then you have the toss-up between Bacon and Depp, where I think Bacon's the way better actor. Sorry to any Johnny Depp fans out there. So I would certainly lean Kevin Bacon between the two.
I also like the Bacon death over what Depp gave us. Not depth. Depp gave us in his movie. But I'm actually going to go with Tom Hanks because I think he might play nice with Kurt Russell.
Oh, so you're going to be spending a lot on the killer here. That's for damn sure.
Am I? How much money do I have?
I think so. You kind of you went a little cheaper.
I have no money. I have no money
Heather
left.
O'Rourke. Sorry. Yeah. I'm taking Kevin Bacon here. He's the most expensive, but also 400. It's not a huge hit.
And then finally, we go to the killer. So this is not the actors and actors. This is the characters that we are drafting here.
Sure.
For $900. And I think this is the heyday of this character, unlike some of the other characters on said list. And I'm going to go with, so we have 900, Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, part 2, through Jason Takes Manhattan, $700.
900.
$900. I'm sorry, 7 movies, $900.
Yeah, Friday the 13th dominated the 80s.
And then we also go with another character here I forgot to put on the list, but I don't think you would have had enough room to get him anyways, and that is Freddy Krueger, who will be at $800, just behind Jason, but also just pretty much just as good. You could argue 1A, 1B going back and forth. You could put him at $900 as well, but go Jason slightly ahead. Would you say more of an iconic look?
Yeah, that mask, even though he only wears it in one movie, the one we're all thinking of with the little red marks on it, is more iconic than Freddy Krueger's look. But Krueger's
sweater with hat.
Every female in the fall.
Also at $800, we have The Thing from The Thing.
This is interesting because you could do whatever you want with it, really.
It could be a thing.
You'd have to just make the thing again, but the plot could be different.
Also at $800, there's a lot of horror icons in the 80s. Let's be completely transparent here, if you will, Matt.
Yep.
Xenomorph from Aliens.
It would be hard to fit this into a movie that's not directed by Kubrick based on our directors.
But also, so I didn't include any of the actors or actresses from this movie because I think this is more of a sci-fi action, but this monster is spooky.
Yeah, and I also prefer, and we've talked about this before, especially when we reviewed Aliens, one of our Goofy Vault winners. I so much prefer, and we see this in the movie Predator too, the 1v1 mano-a-mano, human kind of trying to get away from the beast. The overwhelming amount of beasts in Aliens doesn't make it scary to me. It's entertaining, but it's less scary than one creeping around and
the first Alien
are.
Creeps me the shit out, dude.
For sure. And that's why I think Alien is a horror movie. Aliens is not.
At $700, we have Jack Torrance from The Shining.
Honestly, probably the scariest of these people on the list, but you'd have to fit into the box with Jack Torrance. He doesn't leave you with a lot of options.
At $700, and you could argue as a horror icon in general might be higher up than what we have here, but we're not including his first movie. So Michael Myers, Halloween 2, for the return of Michael Myers and the revenge of Michael Myers.
Probably the best value because of the namesake, but you're right. Not nary a good movie in this decade.
And like I said to you, I think that character might be the worst parts of those movies.
Yeah, but at the same time, the masked stabby killer works in a lot of situations.
At $600, Pamela Voorhees.
You know what? She's probably the fucking scariest character. The end of the first Friday the 13th movie is terrifying because of her.
Also at $600, Chucky from Child's Play.
Chucky movies have never been all that scary to me because I
No.
think even at a younger age, I'm like, I could just fucking punt that thing. Even if he's running at me with a knife, I could fucking drop kick him.
Also, I saw the Treehouse of Horror where Bart had the crusty doll that tried to kill them first, and it kind of took the piss out of the movie.
How quickly, hypothetical,
Yes.
Chucky's real. You live in a world where Chucky is real.
Yeah.
How quickly would you kill Chucky?
Am I allowed to bargain with him?
Sure, I guess.
It would just be friends.
I don't think Chucky's looking for friends or accomplices.
I don't think any of the movies ever explored that.
All right. So I know what movie you're building.
A friendship movie. Angela from Sleepaway Camp 1, 2 Unhappy Campers, and 3 Teenage Wasteland.
I don't need to speak on this. If you want to hear more on this character, go listen to Goo and Rich Keefe talk about Sleepaway Camp from a couple of years ago.
It's Banana Land. It's fantastic. Then we have for $300, The Children of the Corn from said movie, Children of the Corn.
Now, children who don't talk all that much and kind of stand around and glare at you, scary. Children of the Corn, to me, much scarier than Child's Play.
Also, that guy who wears a Santa costume from Silent Night, Deadly Night, $300.
All right. Okay. All right. Sure.
And then finally, for $200, Silver Shamrock from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Now, I'll reveal to you my pick now that we've gotten to it.
Yeah.
Silver Shamrock, $200. The movie's terrible.
Yeah.
However, you throw in who my director is, Kubrick, who can operate in this sci-fi ghostly world, and I think he can bring the concept of Silver Shamrock up. So I like Silver Shamrock for $200 here.
Well, Mac, that's also who I'm going with because I love the idea of Kubrick with Silver Shamrock with these masks and the bugs that eat kids' faces.
Sure.
I have 2 children in my movies, 2 great child actors, great horror child actors in O'Rourke and Harris, and then you have the father figures of Russell and Hanks. This thing writes itself.
Oh, so you have 2 father-daughter combos in your movie.
Pretty much.
Okay.
2 single dads who work too hard.
I'm a survivor.
I have the original Rebas.
Rebuy. Goo, my lineup totaling $3,500 on the nose, budgeted well here.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick, my director.
Yes.
Kurt Russell, my lead actor. Heather Langenkamp, my lead actress. Jennifer Connelly and Kevin Bacon, my supports. Silver Shamrock is my villain. And the idea here, Goo, is sort of a mishmash of The Shining meets Halloween 3. It's sort of we're going to be in like a desolate town, a gold rush town where there's not a lot going on. And the former company or the mill that was run there, Silver Shamrock, thing starts getting a little weird. Maybe Kurt Russell ends up a little possessed, a little Jack Torrance like in this abandoned town. So I think this could play well with Kurt Russell kind of chasing around the other characters, slowly but surely devolving into a Jack Torrance type.
And your movie is more focused on the parents' view of what's happening with this town and these possessed masks with the children, not on the children themselves.
Yeah, there's not many children. There's not many people left in this town. The town itself is as big a character as anything, just like in The Shining. What's the name of the hotel? That's going to kill me that I can't remember.
Overlook.
Yeah, Overlook. Just like in The Shining, how the hotel becomes a character in and of itself. This sort of gold rush abandoned town becomes a character.
Number one, let us just say this right now. Us choosing Silver Shamrock is not us giving a stamp of approval on Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. No. I think they completely botched what could have been a pretty cool idea, actually.
An idea that if Stanley Kubrick had his hands on, he could make it work.
And that's what I'm doing as well. I have Stanley Kubrick as my director, Danielle Harris as my lead actress, Kurt Russell, my lead actor, supporting actress, Heather O'Rourke, and my supporting actor, Tom Hanks. With Silver Shamrock, like I said, 2 father-daughter duos. The 2 daughters really into these masks. Maybe they want them. And, the fathers just say, we can't. Or maybe, Divorced dads, they kind of just give into what their kids want. Maybe Heather
Ah.
O'Rourke has her face eaten, and Tom Hanks has to deal with this now. And then Russell sees this, and he needs to pull Harris out of this.
So Hanks and Russell are kind of drinking buddies. A couple of divorced
Maybe they're
dads.
drinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, the real thing here is just Kubrick and Silver Shamrock.
Yeah, you're just
Almost
making
everyone else in between doesn't matter.
you're making Halloween 3, but directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Correct, but a better leading actor with
Yes. Yeah.
and then also more of a focus on the children with better horror children actors.
Yeah. I sort of got rid of the children altogether. So we went in opposite
Oh
directions.
no, just like Silver Shamrock. That was their
Silver
plan all
Shamrock.
along.
Maybe mine's a sequel to Halloween 3.
All right, Mac, let's move on to the 90s. Once again, guys, we have a budget to create a movie. $3,500. Now it is a 90s horror movie. Each actor, director, villain will be given a value, a dollar amount that you need to pay for them to then support your lineup. And Mac, the big subgenres, if you will, of the 90s horror, looking at slasher, especially at the end of the decade. Big old comeback. And you know what they say? People love a comeback.
Oh, yeah.
Thriller, suspense.
The 90s really rejuvenated horror movies because they were in a bad place at the beginning of the decade. And
even
we
the mid too.
Yeah, we ended up getting to a spot where it ended up being a lot of copycat shit. But then also at the end of the decade, you got things like Blair Witch. So they were also changing and redefining the genre. So the end of the 90s was a really good spot for horror movies.
Found footage as well. This was the real start of found footage.
Yeah.
So for directors at $1,000, top director on the board, Wes Craven, who, yes, he made Vampire in Brooklyn. Laugh it up, audience. I know. Boo. The People Under the Stairs, New Nightmare, which really got, kind of brought the genre back, and then Screams 1 and 2.
Yeah, he is the greatest horror director of all time, so there really needs no justification for that price.
People don't talk about Last House on the Left enough either from the 70s.
Although, you know what? He was top two. John Carpenter. John Carpenter and Wes Craven. Top two.
For $700, we have Jonathan Demme from Silence of the Lambs.
If you're trying to make more of a dramatic, potentially Oscar bait film, Demme's your guy here.
For $500, we have Bernard Rose, Candyman.
Now, this really plays into the crass looking type. That movie is just gross looking. It makes you feel yucky. Candyman is so good at making you feel so uncomfortable.
Also, as someone who is apophobic, I do not much care for the bees in the movie.
A lot of bees, yeah.
Lots of bees. That was a movie that whenever I was renting movies as a kid, you would see the box art and you're like, I don't like this.
Cool. I'm going to give you a little tip here as a man who's afraid of bees, I'm talking about, and coming from a man who has dealt with bees for a long time. They're attracted to the CO2 that you exhale. So when you panic and run, you produce more CO2. That's why they chase after you and swarm you. So your best thing, little tip for the folks at home, remain calm, just slowly walk away from the situation. Don't pant, don't start waving, just remain calm and remove yourself from the situation.
You know who's great at killing bees?
Who?
Like at swatting bees? Our lawyer, Kenny Woodland.
I don't think swatting bees is that impressive. Flies is.
I think bees is more impressive. There's way more at stake. You miss a fly, whatever, the fly's going to fly away. You miss a bee, that thing's going to kill you.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Especially if you're Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, come on. Too soon.
$400, Jim Gillespie. I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Now, he's the perfect director for a sexy teen drama slasher.
And then $300, a little bit of diminishing returns at this point, and that is Toby Hooper, Night Terrors, Body Bags, The Mangler.
He'll be good if you want to make a sequel to an 80s movie. If you want to make an 80s type movie, grab Hoopski.
And then finally, for $0, Alan Smithy.
We'll peek behind the curtain here. I don't want to give things away, but I sacrificed my director to the gods because I liked the options in the other categories so much. So I have a $0 director, but it might work if you're doing a found footage type of situation.
So I'm actually going the complete opposite way, and I am paying $1,000 for Wes Craven.
Wow. All right. Well, I like this. There's a divergent path going on here.
I really think, and I might be the only one who thinks this, directors are important.
I agree with you.
I'm going to go out
So
on a limb
That makes
here.
two of us. However,
Yeah.
when I think 90s horror,
Yeah.
I think that sort of bad, sexy teen stuff.
I do too, but
So
I
that's
think
where I'm
Wes
leaning.
Craven saving the genre.
I get you. I'm not putting you down for taking Wes Craven. I'm just saying, I'm trying to justify my Alan Smithy, basically.
I'm trying to justify not having one.
It's a real commune. It's a group effort for directing.
All right, lead actresses in a horror movie in the 90s for $900. Neve Campbell, Scream 1 and 2.
Yeah, she's 90s horror is what
Yeah.
she is. She's every bit as iconic for the 90s as Jamie Lee Curtis was for the 70s and early 80s.
For $800, if you want someone who's really going to fight back, if you want someone to lead your movie and possibly get you some awards, we have Jodie Foster, Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, if you want someone to just not be scared in your scary movie, that's your play.
For $600, and you could say a bargain basement version of Neve Campbell. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you could say that.
You
Mac.
better tread lightly right there.
Jennifer Love Hewitt. I know what you did last summer. I know what you did last summer too.
I mean, that's the steal of our session here. 600 for JLH was a shoo-in for me the minute I saw that. She's not nearly as good of an actress as Neve Campbell, so you're dealing with that. But once again, if you're building a sexy teen drama and you know it's not going to be good, you get JLH.
Also, how much of that movie from her can you remember?
The first I Know What You Did Last Summer, I remember quite a bit. I have
Okay.
no fucking clue what happens in the second one.
All I remember from her.
Second one, do they end up on the boat?
Yeah, and Jack Black's in it.
Is he?
Yeah. Is her with her hands up, what do you want from us?
Or does the first one end on the boat? How does the first one end?
There's a guy with the hook.
First one ends on the boat. Yeah.
There's a guy with the hook.
Yes, correct. Yeah, no, it's the same guy.
Oh, that's right. For $500, we have Jamie Lee Curtis, who has gotten back into the horror game with Halloween H2O.
I don't mind the selection. She's still JLC. She's still got it. And if you want a little older lead, that's your lady.
$500, and this might be the steal of this round, actually, and that is Candyman's Virginia Madsen.
Her performance in Candyman's incredible, but
Yeah.
I don't want the like investigative type in my movie.
Much like Jamie Lee Curtis, for $300, we have Heather Langenkamp, New Nightmare.
If you want to sign a veteran pitcher that's a little over the hill, that's your play.
If you want John Burkett, there you go. And then we have two young up-and-comers right here who were in fucking terrible movies. And that is Renee Zellweger, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation.
I've got nothing nice to say about Zellweger, so I'll keep it to myself.
And Jennifer Aniston, Leprechaun.
She was the real battle here in my mind. Do I want to go JLH for 600 prime JLH or like an up-and-comer prospect Jennifer Aniston for 300? And I think because Jennifer Aniston's been in some successful movies, but you don't think of Jennifer Aniston as a movie star. I think Jennifer Love Hewitt has more of a claim to that.
I think with Aniston as well, if you're trying to pitch this movie to someone and you're like, oh, I have this horror movie with these specific horror actors or horror directors, and you're like, I have Jennifer Aniston, and the people's first question is always, well, what movie was she in? Right? Like, what horror movie was she in? And you have to say, she was in Leprechaun.
Yeah. I think she has the hard time being the lead. And I think Jennifer Love Hewitt has a better chance of pulling that off for a 90s movie.
So speaking of that, Mac, I have taken JLH.
Yep, JLH. Good. That was a nice toss-up, little soft toss.
Yeah.
Hit that to 500 feet out to left field. JLH by a mile here.
And look, if I had a little bit of extra money, I would take Neve Campbell, but I don't have the money.
I was hoping you could sneak Aniston into supporting actress, and I would have taken her there.
Well, let's move on to lead actor. And for $700, he's actually really good in these first two movies. He's actually really good in the Scream that just came out, not this last one, but the one prior, and that is David Arquette.
Scrum. Yeah, he's I think he's just a good actor. Like when he wants to act, he does it well. He's just been in so many shitty movies.
Arachnophobia. No, it's Eight-Legged Freaks,
I
right?
think it's Eight-Legged Freaks.
There we go. Then we have for $600. By the way, this is a real bad list. This is not a good list. This is not the where you want to spend any money. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
We have Jared Leto, Urban Legend, $600.
The best actor on the list. I don't know. Well, you know what? Because of his looks, you could make a horror movie here almost with him as the villain in a Patrick Bateman type of role.
Speaking of that, he was in that movie.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
But also, that's in the 2000s. So fuck off, Mac. $600 as well. Freddie Prinze Jr. I Know What You Did Last Summer. And IKWYDLS2.
He's fine. He's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
He's fine.
I would say a better value pick as opposed to Freddie Prinze would be Josh Hartnett, $400. Halloween H2O and The Faculty.
Halloween H2O, underrated, I think, when you're talking horror movies. The Faculty is not good, but I like it, if that helps you at all. I like Hartnett a lot. You know what? I'm getting the old Hartnett feelings back after Oppenheimer because he was so good in Oppenheimer too, where I'm like, we'll just ignore like the 20 years in between.
For $300, we have Paul Stephen Rudd from Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers.
If I know you like I think I do, I'm pretty sure we're both taking Paul Stephen Rudd from this category.
So it's just because of the value in the name. He's terrible in the movie. Like, he's so bad in the movie that he took the Steven off his name.
But the movie is so bad. Even if he was good, I don't know if we would have known.
The theatrical cut, the producer's cut. That movie is trash.
As underrated as Halloween H2O is, that's how bad The Curse of Michael Myers is.
And then finally, for $300 is Matthew McConaughey. Hey! I yelled that because if you have seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, that's all he does in the movie. And he has actually apologized for this movie.
I'm not going to say what I was about to say. To me, McConaughey is a better actor than Paul Rudd. But once again, I'm building a shitty 90s movie, so give me Paul Stephen
If you're
Rudd
building a shitty 90s movie, I mean, McConaughey is terrible in that movie.
I got a toss up here between a Hartnett and Rudd. I think I'll figure it out at the end, but I'm leaning one of those two.
Let me go on to supporting actress.
Who are you taking from
Rudd?
From
Taking Rudd.
Okay.
Taking
All
Rudd.
right. Yeah, thought so.
$700. Sarah Michelle Gellar. I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream 2.
Listen, you could almost argue she's the lead, so $700 is really good value on her. But if you're taking her at $700, you're gonna have to save pennies elsewhere. So
someone else who also might be considered the lead, also at $700, is Courtney Cox, Scream and Scream 2.
Yeah, pretty good values from your supporting here, and they are technically supporting in their most popular movies, so it's fair.
At $500, we have Michelle Williams, Species, and Halloween H2O.
The best actress on the list, but I don't know. Her in a horror movie is not going to jive in my brain, so I will not be using her.
At $400, we have Rebecca Gayheart, Urban Legend.
That's who Keith will be using. I don't find her attractive at all, and Keith is the opposite.
I have $3,100 left over, guys. For $300, also from Urban Legend, is Tara Reid.
Now, she would fit in very well to what I'm building, and 1999 Tara Reid really doesn't get any much better than that, but I think I'm going to have to pass on her.
And then finally, at $300, we have Brandy from I Know What You Did Last Summer, too.
You're a fine girl, fine girl. Actually, she's probably the best value here if you don't go for one of the two 700. Brandy at 300. Actual good actress and very attractive.
So who would you consider between us two, the Brandy and the Monica?
That's tough because they're both kind of dickheads.
Yeah, and the boy is mine.
Yeah.
The boy is mine.
I would say I don't know. That's good. That's a question for the folks. I actually don't know.
Monica.
I don't know about that one. Okay.
I
was also leaning Monica for myself there. So I guess the folks can tell us who's the Brandy.
Are we Monica and Monica? The boy truly is ours.
Goo.
Yeah.
For supporting actress, I had to take Sarah Michelle Gellar to pair her up with Jennifer Love Hewitt. That's spending a lot on my supporting actress, but I feel like if you listen, and this is part of the reason why I'm going Alan Smithy on your ass.
Yeah.
If you tell me it's a 90s slasher movie with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt, I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it. No matter what, I'm seeing the movie.
Because I have very little money to play with here, I'm going to have to go with Tara Reid and go bargain bin shopping.
Okay. Just don't have her talk too much. Just have her look good. You'll be all right.
This is like me putting a tight end in my flex because I need to get someone under $3,000 in there.
Which never works.
So this has nothing to do with this, but the past couple of weeks, I've been putting Mike Gesicki there because I just needed to put someone.
Gross.
I didn't do it yesterday when it actually would have paid off.
He still only got like 8 points, so it doesn't really pay off.
8 from $2,600 is pretty good.
Whatever.
Whatever. Let's go on to supporting actor. So for $800, and I know it's a lot of Scream at the top. That's because Scream is probably the best horror movie from this decade.
For sure.
Jamie Kennedy. Jamie Kennedy at $800, Scream 1 and 2.
I'll tell you, I was actually thinking about this after we recorded the other day because I brought up season 1 of the Jamie Kennedy Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a world where Jamie Kennedy, like an alternate timeline, where he like became a good actor. His scenes in Scream are great. They're great scenes. I think if he wanted to, if he didn't want to be the prankster, he could have been a good actor.
Do you know who wrote Malibu's Most Wanted?
Was it not Jamie Kennedy?
An 18-year-old, actually, it might have been 16-year-old, Nick Swardson.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes sense. I
found that out on TikTok the other day on a reel.
Wow. So I bet Kennedy got co-writer after some edits, but wow.
Well, I think that Swardson wrote the original backbone and the original screenplay, and then they punched it up. But yes.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's a nice fun fact right there.
That's a great fun fact. Should we stop the podcast here?
That's it. See you later.
For $500, we have Ryan Felipe from I Know What You Did Last Summer. What's so funny?
Ryan's Taqueria for $500. Philippi is your classic like 90s heartthrob, but can't really act, but he's there. He's there.
For $300, we have Adam Scott from Hellraiser Bloodline.
What a deep dive you did for this one. I had no idea. I had no clue.
Well, if you're going to do Alan Smithy, that's who directed Hellraiser Bloodline.
Credit to my guy.
For $300 from Scream 2 and Urban Legend, Joshua Jackson.
Pacey, classic. He was also in a movie called, I think it was called The Bones or something like that. Where it was
that's in 2000s, though.
Secret Society. So he can play in this role. He's not good. He's almost a better version of Ryan Phillippe, actually. So I feel like there's good value here with Pacey.
And then finally, at $200, we have Henry Winkler. Scream. He's the principal.
Scream. Oh, is he the principal?
Yeah.
I don't know what you would do with him, but he's an option.
He can be the principal. Could be my dad. I don't know.
Just be in like 3
crazy
scenes.
uncle. He'd be the crazy uncle.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If you could get him to do a Barry type performance, it could work.
Actually, well, this is only in the 90s, though. So we're dealing with Screaming Waterboy. Who are you taking, Mac?
I'm going Pacey here, Joshua Jackson. And I think the Joshua Jackson, now I had Paul Stephen Rudd initially, but I think the Jackson Hartnett combo might play really well here.
Can you afford that?
Yes, I can.
You have a little money extra? Oh,
I have $100 extra, so I can upgrade from Rudd.
Okay, so take your time and really think about it.
Yeah. So
really think about it.
I think I'm gonna do that at the end here, but give me Joshua Jackson.
I am gonna pay up and I am gonna take Jamie Kennedy. $800. We got Wes Craven and Jamie Kennedy back together.
The only thing now, you did a lot of work, so I'm not criticizing, but now that we're talking about it, now that I'm seeing it, I think you may have the supporting actresses being 700 and Jamie Kennedy being 800. That might have been a bit of an oversight.
Should I have done supporting actresses more?
Yes. Flip-flop those. Not that it
I
matters.
mean, I can get Kennedy at 700, and then I have an extra $100.
It doesn't really matter.
That's better for me, you idiot.
Yeah, it's only gonna fuck me, so we'll leave it as is.
So either way, I think that Kennedy is the funnest character from this decade, and I think, especially if you're going horror comedy, he is the perfect guy to have.
Listen, if we kill a Kang in this timeline, there's a branched reality where Jamie Kennedy becomes a really good actor. That's all
And
I'm
then
saying.
finally, Mac, the final here for the DFS, Mac v. Goo movie DFS, is The Killers of the 90s. And keep in mind, once again, it is only for their work in the 90s. So Hannibal Lecter, $1,000 from Silence of the Lambs, and only Silence of the Lambs.
I know this movie was 1990, right? Or 91?
91.
It is so unlike every other horror movie in the 90s, besides Misery. Misery, I'll say that.
Oh, I forgot Misery. I should have
That
put
just
Kathy
popped in.
Bates on here.
Yeah, Kathy Bates would be.
You know what would have been nice is if you helped do this.
Goo, I actually said Radio Zone. What's the producer 98.5 Midday? Hardy.
Yeah.
Radio Zone Hardy, like a week ago, tweeted out asking what the scariest human character is in like horror movies, and I responded with Kathy Bates's character in Misery. She's terrifying.
Did you get a like?
No, I didn't get a like.
Looks like he doesn't agree with you. Looks like you're stupid.
Yeah, that's on me.
So pretty much just the 20 minutes that you got in Silence of the Lambs. That's it.
It's a great 20. No, it's even less than that. Isn't it like
18,
16
whatever
minutes?
is it? Yeah. Actually, that makes the character better.
It definitely does. For sure it does. It's and that it's almost, it's not the same because I'm not like, I don't want to compare him to the shark in Jaws, but it's the emptiness that makes it work. That's what you don't see. It's the implied stuff that works so much better with that
Jaws,
character.
Hannibal, Beetlejuice.
There it is. The trio.
Guys, send us the fourth for the Mount Rushmore. At $900, we have Ghostface, Scream 1 and 2 for different people.
I saw a TikTok the other day running up the kill counts of all the people that donned Ghostface. I was pretty intrigued by it.
At $800, one of the spookier, once again, human in a horror thriller, whatever you want to say here, and that is Buffalo Bill, Silence of the Lambs, $800.
Yeah, the first time you watch this movie and it goes to night vision in the basement is one of the most uncomfortable moments I've ever had watching a movie. Downright terrifying.
At $700, just a tick down from his work in the 80s, and that is Freddy Krueger. That is A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, the final chapter, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Pretty good value because A New Nightmare's, I don't know if it's great.
He's great in it. It's a great character in it.
He's great in it. Yeah, that's a better way to phrase it. That's good.
Maybe the best value on the board, and that is Candyman at $600. Candyman 1, 2, Farewell to Flesh, and 3, Day of Death.
Yeah, it is good value. It's just that movie being like the supernatural stuff doesn't fit in all that well with what I'm trying to do.
At $500, we have Halloween 6's Michael Myers, The Curse of Michael Myers, and from H2O.
That's incredible value on just the name alone. Michael Myers is $500. You get the mask, even if it's one of the bad masks. It's good value.
You have a 0 hot dog movie, and you have a 23 hot dog movie. Not that great.
H2O? I'd say
25. I'd say around 25.
28, maybe 30 for me.
30 is way too high. And you mentioned the bad mask. The masks in these two movies might be their worst. Actually, 5 is also really bad. There is a
the
point.
H2O mask is laughably bad.
It's CGI at one point.
It's so bad.
How hard was it to figure this out?
It's almost like they went into the movie and day one, they were like, oh, fuck, we forgot the mask.
It's pink at one point. It's pink.
It's like airbrushed cheeks and stuff. It's bad.
At $500, we have Chucky, Child's Play 2, 3, and The Bride of Chucky.
I have no further comment on Chucky.
At $400, and this is you're just getting a name. This is like getting name me a slugger in their final year getting picked up by someone and he sucks.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say Pujols going back to the Cardinals, but he was actually very good in that final fucking 4 months.
This is like Arizona getting Emmitt Smith.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Jason Voorhees at $400, and all you get is Jason Goes to Hell the final Friday.
You know what I actually saw the other day? So now they have the Friday the 13th game out, which
Yeah.
we had played. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. We had played
Blind.
Friday the 13th. They added, at least what I saw on TikTok, I think they added the spaceship from
Oh, I like that.
as a level. I'm pretty sure.
That didn't
So,
happen in the 90s, though, so go shove it.
what was that? 2002,
It was
2003?
either 2000 or 2001.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that next Halloween when we
There
do
you-
70s and 2000s.
Or 2000s and 2010s.
That would make more sense, as a
Mhm.
matter of fact, if I'm going to
Mhm.
say so myself.
Mm-hmm.
Then at 300, we have Leprechaun from Leprechaun 2, 4, and In Space.
Whatever. Well, who's more magical, Lep or Chucky?
Ooh, Lep is more magical.
I
And
think I'm
also
more-
credit to Lep for going to space first.
I think I'm more afraid of Lep than I am Chucky because I'm not afraid of Chucky.
So who are you taking here for the killers?
Goo, I'm taking the bargain store version of Michael Myers at $500. Being that I'm building a bad teen sexy slasher movie, I think the bad Michael Myers works pretty well. So, and considering I have half the cast, if I know what you did last summer, put Michael Myers in that role.
I am also taking Michael Myers, but for a different reason. This is the first time that Wes Craven would have his hands on the character. And also, think of how many times Jamie Kennedy references Halloween in Scream. Now he's in the same movie as him. This is like meta within meta.
So you're building Inception, the horror movie.
Yes, correct.
Goo, my final lineup here.
Yes.
My director for $0. Now, I don't know, since there's no lead here, I don't know if this will be a found footage film. I don't know.
Max
if it'll
secretly has Steven Spielberg directing his movie. He's just not attaching his name.
But going 0 there, Goo, allowed me to go Jennifer Love Hewitt for $600, Sarah Michelle Gellar for $700, Josh Hartnett for $400, and Pacey, Joshua Jackson for $300. That is a sexy ass 90s cast.
The sexy cast.
All getting slaughtered by bargain bin Michael Myers. So it's not good, but we're all watching it. And you know what? That's the type of movie you're going to watch with friends and have a grand old time.
So I am dealing with, I've spent all $3,500 that I have, but I'm going hard on my director, full $1,000 on Wes Craven. I think one of the saviors of the horror genre, especially the slasher, very meta, very, very funny. I love Scream. A New Nightmare is also great. Jennifer Love Hewitt, I think, is the best bargain when it comes to a 90s lead actress to have here. I would prefer a Neve Campbell, but I can't afford a Neve Campbell. Paul Stephen Rudd is there. He's whatever. He sucks in that movie, but it's the same year as Clueless, so maybe he'll figure it out. Also, so imagine Jamie Kennedy at that time with Paul Rudd.
True. Hijinks.
Tara Reid, because once again, I have no money left. So here we go. And then also Jamie Kennedy, I just mentioned him, I think is my favorite 90s character from any of the horror movies.
I'll be honest with you here. The more you talked it out, I don't really like what you're going for here. And I'm thinking about it as spitballing here. Wes Craven likes to work in a little bit of comedy and meta type stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. We just saw 3 movies from a somewhat comedic director with Michael Myers as the lead killer, and that didn't really work too well.
No, but okay. One is comedy and then dabbling in horror. The other is a horror legend, so you can shove that up your butt.
I'm just saying, you have 2 anchors in your lineup. You better hope they go off because the rest of your shit is not good.
And then finally, give me the GoBots version of Michael Myers from 6 and H2O. I like my movie.
Big bad Beetleborgs version of Michael Myers.
Big bad Beetleborgs. So guys, head over to Twitter right now, email, Instagram, send us your movies. Once again, your budget is $3,500. If you want us to email this to you, our palettes and our list, maybe Matt can make it look nice and then we can send that out to you guys.
Yeah, you know what? I'll make a nice little graphic for this. That'll be how I contribute.
Perfect. And then we'll compare and we'll see who wins on Sunday.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Great. Grand. Wonderful.
Let's get into
Max.
And Max, that could be anything. It could be a boat. And Mac, I saw this on Instagram the other day. Someone put up a graphic. Now, first off, you were an N64 boy?
I never owned N64. I just had
Okay.
friends that had N64.
So maybe you can't even answer this question then.
Well, I did in college ultimately get my hands on one 20 years later.
Okay,
Or
so
10 years later.
on this photo that was posted on Instagram, they ask you, how did you wrap your N64 controller? Now, we have a diagonal wrap going like a shoulder strap, if
Like
you
a,
will.
yeah, a one bag backpack type looking thing.
Then we have a full backpack.
one strap backpack, sorry.
So now we have a 2-strap backpack over the shoulders of
Either
the
side
N64
of the cock.
controller on the sides of the cock.
Yeah.
N64 famously had a cock.
Yep.
Then we have the one backpack strap just on the right side, stage left maybe of the controller.
I've never seen this in my life. I don't know who suggested this. This strikes me as they had four squares to fill, so they put this one in there.
And then finally, on the fourth one, we have the X. We have the wrap it across the front so that we have the X in the front with the wire.
The crisscross applesauce.
Crisscross applesauce.
I was a number 2 here. I was a number 2.
Wow.
Real piece of shit. I think either side of the cock was the way to go. The crisscross is great in theory, but then when you undo it, doesn't come undone all that well. Not that graceful. So I think number 2 is.
Because
is
you
the
did
best
that,
way.
let me ask you this. How tight was your backpack when you walked around? Was it all the way up to your back or was it slouching off?
So in high school, I transitioned to the one strap. I had an Echo one strap, which was pretty. You had to keep those kind of tight, otherwise it just bounced around. But when I had a regular knapsack, they were pretty loose.
I used to just have it completely loose off the back.
Yeah.
When I actually brought my backpack or my books, I usually just showed up to class.
I legit would leave all my. That's the reason why I always took studies. I'd get all my homework done in the study either that day or the next morning. And I would never take anything home. I had a successful high school career, Goo.
So I would say that I'm a number 1. I am a Donatello strap across the front.
Okay, yeah, I'm a 2. I'm a number 2. You're a PP. I'm a poo.
But also, if my mother was cleaning up after me, like she would do, she would go with number 4. She would go crisscross applesauce.
I think my mom would just kick him in the corner and get mad at me for not being kept.
My mom loved me, so she would just clean up after me. Oh, you know what we did yesterday as a family? Is we carved pumpkins, right?
Okay, sure.
And it was supposed to be for like the kids and they could paint the pumpkins. The kids didn't even want to do it. So just me, my siblings, and my cousins all just cutting up pumpkins.
Did you eat the seeds?
No, we tossed all the seeds. No one wanted to clean them.
Yeah, that is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And honestly, not that rewarding, too.
And then also, when I was carving my pumpkin, I would have my mother draw the face on it first, and then I would cut around it.
Yeah, as a man that went to art school, you're not.
I did go to art school. People
you're not
forget
particularly
about this.
gifted with the drawing and painting.
I'm really, really bad at it, actually. But what are you gonna do? Hey, Mac, where can the people find us?
You can find us on Twitter and on Instagram at Mac and Goo.
Oh, happy
Podcast.
Halloween!
Hey, Goo, happy Halloween.
Thanks, bud.
On every other platform, we are Mac ampersand Goo. It's Mac Shift 7 Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify, but more importantly, we are on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. That's Watertown Sportswear, 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. WatertownSportswear.com, expert screen printing and embroidery.
tpublic.com. I can't believe this podcast is over. Was it worth my time? We'll find out.
I had fun doing it.
I did too, and that's all that matters.
I hope I win. I hope I win the poll.
Yeah, we should do a poll, actually. That's a good idea.
I thought that's what you were going to do.
Did I announce that or no?
No, you did not.
Now I'm going to announce it. We'll put up some polls.
You're going to have to do 2 separate polls.
2 separate polls, obviously, because we want each individual movie.
Right.
And then people will say, wait a second, why do you guys have the same characters? That is a possibility in DFS.
Yeah, it's a new day. It's a dawn of a new era in Mac v Goo.
That's right. Mac v Goo.
More than meets the
That'll do it for this week. I'm going to see Killers of the Flower Moon tomorrow night. I have bought my tickets.
Right. Love it.
I asked my wife ahead of time. I'm like, is it okay if I see this 4-hour movie? She said,
what time
sure.
does it start?
5:30.
Oh, not bad. I thought you were talking like a 7 or 8 o'clock showing.
No, and so my plan is to, as soon as I get out of work, get over there as quickly as I can and get there for like 5:50, and hopefully it hasn't started yet.
I didn't eat anything before. I didn't get any popcorn during. I didn't want to have to leave the theater, so I just raw dogged that motherfucker.
I'm gonna ask for a trough of popcorn.
Do you want a quick 20, 30-second thought from me on that?
Yes.
Movie?
Yes.
It's the best I've seen Robert De Niro act in a really long time. Really, really long time. It's the best Martin Scorsese movie I've seen since at least The Wolf of Wall Street, if not beyond that. And I'm notoriously higher on Wolf of Wall Street. Goo, it is going to get nominated for lots of awards, and I still think Oppenheimer is the better movie, but we're going to have a real runoff here when it comes to award season between these two movies.
All right, so check us out at the end of the week when we talk about Killers of the Flower Moon, and then we'll do something not spooky next week because we're all spooked out. So now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.
Bye.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.